Welcome to the Susan Brender Show. It's all about you, featuring shows on health and wellness, the performing arts, politics, and people who inspire you to be your very best. And now, here's Susan Brender.
My name is Susan Brender, and this is the Susan Brender Show. Today my guest is Matt Bertram. He's the co-host of Unknown Secrets of Internet Marketing, the most popular SEO podcast on iTunes for the last 10 years, and Amazon best-selling author of Build Your Brand Mania, How to Transform Yourself into an Authoritative Brand to Attract Your Ideal Customers. Now, I want to welcome to the show Matt Bertram, and I want Matt, if you don't mind, there's a lot of people on our audience really want to know a little bit about SEO and some of the words that are sort of part of the whole IT situation that is happening today. So welcome to my show, Matt.
Thanks, Susan, for having me.
You know, Matt, today so much has changed in the world. And, of course, as you know, we are just evolving with regard to the computer, its uses, and also how it's just changing everybody. Now, you mentioned I mentioned in your intro, the SEO podcast. What's an SEO?
Yeah, SEO is kind of an elusive term, and a lot of people out there that have dealt with online marketing, SEO is a pretty broad term. It means search engine optimization. It's essentially how much visibility you get on the different search engines, predominantly Google, because that's by far the largest search engine. So it's broken into a number of different categories, but really the goal is to get yourself visibility, kind of like, I guess, the yellow pages used to be online, right? Everybody goes to Google when they're looking for something, whether it be an answer to a question or to potentially research more about a product or service. 90% of all searches online are informational searches, so it's really, really important to get that kind of visibility online. SEO can be broken up into a couple different categories, not to go too deep, but technical, on-page related topics, on-page, which is your content and what kind of information you're presenting to the visitor, and then off-page content or off-page SEO, which is related to what happens off your website of people potentially voting or linking back to you, what's going on social media, and what have you. So it is a really broad topic. It is kind of a black box, and that's really what we did with our podcast, right, is there wasn't a lot of visibility in the industry, wasn't sure what it was. People that wanted to know more, we wanted to share our expertise, and so for the last 10 years, we've been putting out content from everything related to really, internet marketing is an even broader topic than SEO, but SEO is the primary focus of our agency, even though we do Google AdWords, and we've been building websites since '99 as well. SEO is, I guess, the most interesting topic that people want to know more about.
You know, it's an interesting thing that you brought up the yellow pages, because obviously if our audience was very, very young and you said something like the yellow pages, they'd say, excuse me? Huh? What's that? And for those of my audience who are baby boomers, they would say, oh, yeah, I use those yellow pages all the time. But look at what's happening today with Google. Look at how you can just put virtually anything into your search engine, Google, and get information that you never thought even existed. Now, I'm interested in understanding from your point of view whether that's dangerous or not. Because, imagine that people look up you, and the information they get on you is virtually everything that is about you. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, no, privacy has been a big issue for a long time in the information age. And you got to understand, too, the Internet is quite young. The Internet's kind of like a teenager, you know what I mean? It hasn't been around all that long, or maybe it's a little older than a teenager, maybe in its 20s. But what I can tell you is it's constantly evolving, it's constantly changing, and more information is being available. And what Google's job is, or what their kind of mantra is, they've dropped the "do not be evil," and there's some different documentaries out there. There's one on Netflix called "The Creepy Line," and I think that's what you're addressing, is how much information's out there and people are acquiring of you. Also, even Facebook, you're basically providing everything that's going on from where you are, if you're actively posting, to the things that you like, things that you buy, and then they even use offline credit reporting information to come up with a profile on you. Now, they've done things to limit that. There's kind of, if you're doing something like, you know how Amazon used to follow you around, or if you've ever been to a website and you've looked at something and then all of a sudden you're on Facebook or you're looking at a website and there's a banner ad for what you just looked at, that's called retargeting or remarketing. It's extremely successful if you're the one doing it. It's about there's about 400% increase in engagement and a 50 to 60% increase in conversion rate when you do it, because you usually have to, if you're going after, say, a cold prospect, you know, they need to know, like, and trust you, and that takes 7 or 8 times of them kind of seeing your information before they really kind of recognize it and understand your brand. But with that being said, there's absolutely a ton of privacy issues. There was a ton around the election of some things that were going on. It is absolutely a concern. I can tell you, you know, we use Google for our email business account, and so Google has all our information. And then, you know, the Google browser, really when Facebook came out and was being able to get people's activity and what they were doing online, you see, like on Facebook, if you click on a website link, it shows up in Facebook. Same thing with the Google Chrome browser. What they're trying to do and what they're having a really great success doing is tracking absolutely everything you do, categorizing you. They got partnerships with the government. You know, they're selling it to advertisers. It's really, really scary. There's even something out there called geo-targeting or geofencing. It's a newer topic. And you know, on your phone, if you have a smartphone, there's a privacy setting called location, if you have like an iPhone or something like that. Advertisers can actually draw a geographic area based on the GPS. It's actually like an octagon, but essentially it's a circle. They're drawing a circle around a certain geographic area, whether it be a conference, whether it be, you know, a pet store, whether it be, you know, something like that where there's a high density of people, even an office building. And you can grab all the IP addresses in a specific time period and then show ads to them. And the only way that they're not going to be able to catch your IP address is if you don't have that location button turned on. I logged into Google, and they have information back to 2012 of where I was and where I'm going. They know where my home is. They know where my work is. They know, you know, places I visit. Absolutely, it's a real concern. These big you know, I guess online companies are getting kind of the too big to fail if you want to move into the, you know, information or the financial realm. But I think it's absolutely a concern. How I kind of look at it is, you know, they have that information already. And I'm kind of on the other side of the table, and they do things to try to kind of block the IPs, to not figure out who you are. They're trying to create anonymity. But they could absolutely use that information the wrong way. And as we are in the information age, there's trade-offs, there's pluses and minuses. And, you know, I think that's how government function without getting too political is if government functions correctly with checks and balances, should be okay. But
you know, Matt, there's so much to talk to you about with regard to your book and, of course, your company. But before we go on with that, I just want to bring something else up apropos of what we were just discussing, and then that's about the Chinese. You know, it's been a a long time since there's been a lot of conflict with regard to the Chinese, because with regard to the computer, they've censored a lot of their people from actually getting in touch with others around the world. And I've experienced that. I mean, I had a chance to be in China recently, and I wanted to email back and forth a professor from one of the universities there. And suddenly, she was emailing me all the time information, just very simple information, nothing that would be a problem for the Chinese. And then suddenly it stopped. Mm-hmm. And to this day, I keep on saying, did they censor it? Now, they censor almost everything. We are a free country. And that is also one of the issues that we were just discussing. Because of the whole notion that we are a free country, we're allowed freedom of speech. And so what do you say to the whole notion that the Chinese are censoring things and it's causing an issue for a lot of companies like Apple and you name it?
I was actually part of a program in college where it was an exchange program where I worked at the Chinese or the U.S. Embassy in China for a semester actually, and we got to meet with some of the different fellows of the Shanghai Institute of International Studies. We were talking about floating the euro, the European currency at the time. But yeah, they censor everything. Even I saw an article that Russia is starting to censor everything. They want everything to go through kind of government ports. And really they said if we get on a cyber attack, we don't want our internet to shut down, but I think essentially it's kind of these government planning economies. There are ways. I also had a Chinese foreign exchange student living with us, and there's all kinds of ways on the internet to get around it by, VPNs, private VPNs. There's it's a cat and mouse game, but the government's trying to censor information. I can't really speak to any of it one way or another. I think I'm a little more apolitical these days than anything else, and I just kind of understand the bigger trends and look at maybe think of myself as a surfer, kind of riding on whatever waves are coming. I mean, there's a big Bitcoin type wave that's happening. There's a big CBD oil and, medical marijuana wave that we're looking at figuring out how to ride on. I think sometimes as an entrepreneur, it's really tough. I remember like Dick's Sporting Goods was selling a lot of guns. You want to get into some controversial topics, and they came out a big support of gun control on the left. People stopped, shopping there almost overnight. Their stock price plunged. So I think, there's a lot of things that are going on in this world that we either can or can't control. I think that one person can make a difference. But I've really taken more of an apolitical view of some of these things and just really sitting back looking at where everything's going and then figuring out, where's that kind of rising tide and where might be that opportunity. And then, of course, doing it in an ethical way. Right now, like, and if you're not doing something in a value-added way, let me just kind of bring the conversation back. Like, if you're not giving value, you're not adding value. I mean, remember spamming in emails? Like, that just,
of course.
It's so annoying.
How
or the robo-dials. Like, I'm getting robo-dialed, every day, multiple times a day. It doesn't make me want to answer my phone. They're not providing me anything helpful. So it's really important that, as a marketer, you're really taking advantage of this technology in a way that's useful to humanity. I think that that's absolutely important. And also, if you're not bringing value to your customer, you're just kind of spinning your wheels because everybody hates spam, and everybody hates those cold calls that, are not targeted. But with this information, what the goal is, if you do it properly, is you understand kind of what someone's interests are, what their likes are. I can tell you that on Facebook specifically, they have my wife dialed in, man. She buys so many random things from Facebook. We have a number of pets, and they have her targeted, and she bought it. We're the day after Valentine's Day here. She bought my Valentine's Day gift being advertised on Facebook. So, I think that if you do it in the right kind of way, it is helpful, and
Yes.
there needs to be policies and procedures to put that in place. As far as government planning or population planning, all that kind of thing, I think that that's for a different podcast or
Yes.
or a different topic, and I try to keep my views protected beyond being a Christian and being supportive of Jesus Christ and his gospel. Beyond that, I really am very
Sure.
apolitical.
I understand completely. I mean, I wanted to bring this up because I think people ought to know a little bit about what's going on, and that is one of the most important subjects that you read in the newspapers and you hear all over. But let's get back to your book, because your book was written with what intention in mind?
I think that just to kind of bridge basically what you were saying into the book, technology's moving at such a rapid pace that unless you're growing up in it, like the younger generation, I've read some studies that it takes about 20 years for us as humans to kind of really become in line with the pace at which technology is moving. And a lot of ways that small business owners are doing business is kind of a way that was kind of pre-internet or even right after the internet launched, as far as like looking at a website as a digital brochure. I mean, typically people would call you and or people would make sure you had a website, maybe make sure they had a Facebook account, a little bit later on, and then they would call you to decide if they wanted to do business with you or not. Now, 84% of people are going online to determine whether or not they even want to call you, and they're moving themselves, selecting or deselecting themselves through your sales process before you even have the chance to pick up the phone. And so the businesses that are really winning today are the businesses that are, putting themselves out there online, letting people understand who they are, not some faceless brand. They're sharing useful information, looking for kind of that reciprocation aspect of it. But you got to start really looking at your website as your 24/7 salesperson and
Yes.
kind of put your best foot forward online. And so my book is really meant for people that trade on their name. So you got doctors, lawyers, plastic surgeons, electricians, anybody that kind of trades on their name is who the book's for, and who sorry, I got a lot of noise going on here. I'm at the office, but
here's what I want to know, Matt, before you continue what you were talking about before. You said that people have to be involved. Your book is to really give people information and education about how to make your business improve, essentially. And with that in mind, those people who are older, who've never done it and like to touch, like the feeling of walking into a store and touching something, trying it on, looking at the color, looking at the pattern, what's in store for them?
Well, there's going to be certain industries that absolutely you're going to need to go in and buy. I mean, I know Zapato's has done really well with shoes. I personally like to try on shoes. I think it's going to be personal preference to a lot of ways, in a lot of sense. But there is something called, I think it's called a showrooming or showroom flooring or something like that Google uses as a term. But what a lot of people are doing is they're going in to, say, a Walmart or a Target or whatever store, looking at the product, deciding it, and then going and buying it on, say, Amazon or Wayfair or something like that. They're really price shopping. And
that's an interesting concept. So what you're saying is they're doing it in two ways, but the person who's going to lose out is our stores in shopping malls and places like that, because people are going to go in, they're going to look at the product, and then they're going to get it online, and they'll probably get it online cheaper. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? All about money.
So that is the way kind of how I talk with small business owners of how to look at the business is, there's two ways you can go. You can compete on price, and it's a race to the bottom, because someone's always going to be able to do it cheaper, or you can compete on value. And that is really how we built the crux of our business, as well as how we look through that lens to help customers is, there's a ton of electricians out there. There's a ton of lawyers. There's a ton of, dentists, right? There's like dentists on like every corner. I think there's more dentists. It's like a 3-to-1 ratio of dentists to Starbucks or something like that.
Right.
And, you really got to look at what is the service that you're providing. Are you viewed as an expert in your industry? Really more so I talk about in my book of how to position yourself online as an authority. So the difference between an expert and an authority is an expert, someone that maybe knows a lot about a topic. An authority is someone that has influence and that who you go to or you're attracted to for advice. And so we look at how people interact online and the steps that people go through to buy. If you think of it like a sales funnel or a customer journey, at the top of the funnel, they're maybe finding out that they have a problem. Like if you were to buy a big screen TV, you might be searching some different terms, and then you would search big screen TV, and then you break it down to maybe the brands, and then you break it down to actually the products, and then a comparison and reviews, and then then you were maybe looking for deals or looking to buy or near me or in your town or, something like that might be a general process that someone would go through. And if you provide useful content all along the way, whether it be remediation, of mold or, anything that it takes a decision-making process that people go through online, if you're there at every step of the way, it's actually called the AIDA funnel, attention, decision, attention, interest, decision, action. And if you start providing content in each one of those buckets and they start seeing your content all along the way, every time they see your content, they're going to give you more attention, more authority, and consider you more. So what your goal is to be, if you're selling a product or service, is to be that other option. Everybody's going to have options, and they're going to compete on different attributes or features and benefits, and you always want to be that one other choice when they're looking. Also being on the first page on Google. I mean, how many people look beyond the first page of Google? So if you're not on the first page of Google, if you're not building yourself as authority for some other questions, there's somebody else that is, and they're collecting the lion's share of the traffic online. And so you really have to look to build yourself as an expert, or you're going to get lost in the mix and you're going to have to compete on price, if that makes sense.
So that happens to be part of the ROI, which is the return on investment. In order to do that, you have to really put yourself in the position where your website is really unique and special. Is that what you're saying? And it's an authoritative brand to attract ideal customers is what part of your book is about. But let me ask you this much, Matt, and that is, walk us through for just a second. I know you kind of talked about it already, but I want you to walk a small business, and here's what I'm thinking. I'm interested, I'm giving you a scenario right now. So I'm interested in starting a small business. It could be virtually anything. Maybe it's a clothing business. Maybe it's a food business. It doesn't really matter. And I've scouted the area that I'm in, and I've noticed that there is no business like mine. Mine is very unique, okay? And I have to think, starting with number one, how do I attract customers? Number two, if I attract them, how do I get them back? And how do I get them to spread the word, okay, that my product is really very fine and very wonderful, and it's also reasonably priced. And then also I want to, kind of create events around my business, so that makes the business also a very interesting one. Walk us through a little business plan that you would develop for somebody. If you, created a website for them, if you created a business plan for them, what would you do?
Well, to answer your question directly, I would say that through you want to build and attract customers to you through content generation, whether that be video, images, or text, right? And then that's the goal, is start producing a lot of high-quality content. About 80% of all searches are going to be video searches by next year, by 2020. And so
Really?
I think that video content, you can take still images, you can transcribe it. So if you're looking to get the bang for your buck and you don't have a lot of time, generating video content is really the key. If you don't like how you're coming across, you can always keep the audio and syndicate it out as a podcast or something like this. But content generation, I think, is the core of SEO and is the core of attraction marketing. There's a lot of other things that you can do and get more complicated with, but that's the thing to remember. Even before you have, say, a product, developing an audience and selling into that audience is key. While you're perfecting your product, you should continue to start generating content in that area and start to be viewed as an authority. So when you introduce that product, you're not starting from scratch. I think also, if you're going to dive into internet marketing, you really need to have a decent foundation of what you're trying to achieve, because you'll hear all kinds of other people say that, oh, I had great results with SEO, or I had great results with running Facebook ads, or I had great results with this or that. And it's really important to understand that that's a strategy or a campaign in a larger pie, or if you want to use the analogy of kind of like the tip of the iceberg.
Right.
You got to take it in that kind of context. And when I was getting started, I was going through tons and tons of YouTube videos and Udemy courses and online certifications, trying to pull all this information together. And it's extremely difficult if you're trying to become an expert and focus on your business. You don't need to become an expert in internet marketing. And that was really some of the decision behind writing the book Build Your Brand Mania. Is I wanted to put together a step-by-step guide for someone how to do it in kind of lay terms. So I don't use too many technical terms or SEO or anything like that. That's what our podcast is for. So if you need a strong foundation in internet marketing, I would encourage people to go through the book, and I break down a lot of concepts in a little more detail. And then if you need additional to get into really some of the technical stuff, you can always jump on the podcast, another free content source. You can search for The Unknown Secrets to Internet Marketing or bestseopodcast.com. Get on there, and we have 450 different episodes. But if someone was to build a business, I would say that the core of a business, in my opinion, is a really good website that collects customers' information, so you can build that email list, you can get them to contact you, or you want to create that kind of inbound strategy. So I actually have everyone contacting me, and I've set up all these automations to get them on my, I use Calendly, to get them on my calendar to book appointments. And then there's goals set, there's lead scoring all set up in our email automation system. So it triggers when different email drifts or automation goes out. And it's really, really effective. Me and my team members are booked usually 2 to 3 weeks out. We're trying to hire some more people to actually be able to handle calls a little bit more quickly. And for all your listeners out there, I mean, that's what we do for businesses. If that sounds like something that is interesting, you really should check out our podcast or check out the book, and then set up a free consultation. We do free consultations, then we do paid consultations, and we actually build out your business strategy. But everybody's starting from a different spot. I know you were saying from scratch. It's very, very difficult to start something from scratch. We typically take on businesses that are already kind of up and running, and they want to optimize what they have. They already have a customer list. They already have cash flow. And we can take what they're doing and kind of put rocket boosters on it. Or if their website's not really generating leads, but they have some traffic, we can optimize what's going on there. We can create email drips. We can get them in the maps. So Google Maps is actually a different search engine. A lot of people don't know that. There's something called universal search where Google grabbed YouTube, which they own YouTube, so you can see all those videos, content, maps, images, shopping, and combined them all under one roof called universal search. And then there's also that Google organic and paid ads. I would say that basic concepts are so I would say a core website, SEO, I believe, is the foundation, and then retargeting or remarketing, right? Someone comes to your website. We talked about that in the beginning of bringing them back to your website. And then after that, you can look at paid strategy. And really the two buckets of paid strategies fall into, AdWords, which is display advertising, AdWords, which is the little ads on Google, and then they own YouTube, so you can run YouTube ads through that. And then the other bucket is Facebook and Instagram, right? And so that's more visual. I would look at AdWords or Google as demand that's already out there. If you want to grab demand, you have a product or service that people are searching for, and you want people to find you, that's where you go first, and you max out those strategies. You actually really want to be in the top 3 to 5 positions on Google. There's a dramatic drop. 33% of all traffic goes to that first position on Google. This was from a study a couple years ago, and then it dramatically drops down to position 10. I think it's like 1 or 2% of traffic for that specific search term. So the lion's share is really on that kind of front end of that. So you really want to max out being on the first page, being higher up on the page on Google, in Maps if it makes sense for your business first, because you're harvesting demand. Now, if you have a product or service, I'll give you an example. My wife bought a cat, like a hamster, this giant hamster wheel thing for cats. I can tell you that she wasn't searching for that, and honestly, I don't think she needed it. But Facebook and Instagram brought that ad to her and put it in her face and said, "Hey, this is something you might check out." Sure. And so it generated demand. So you use Facebook and Instagram to generate demand, and also you got to think about storytelling through who you are or what you do or testimonials or how-to videos. Again, that goes back to that video content creation. You can utilize that for SEO in Google. You can also run those type of things on Facebook. And if you think about your Facebook feed, your LinkedIn feed, LinkedIn's really good for B2B business, or Instagram.
Yes. I just want to tell you something. As I listen to you talking about all the ways in which one can be successful, I think about some of the things that have been done, like in a supermarket, for example. When you go into a supermarket and you see these products that are lined up at the top, and I call it the top for lack of any other way to describe it, but right when you walk in, where it's right in your face, where you can see something. And then, for example, this is an amazing thing to me because this has been going on for a while, but now more than ever, where they have like a person who's cooking. This isn't a supermarket, where they're cooking a little bit of a, say I had this yesterday, salmon and asparagus, and they give you a sample of it. And then they also give you a coupon so that you could buy some of the ingredients in it. And then also some of them also give you a recipe for it so that you really know how to do it. And then in some places they even have a video of somebody cooking it. And, you get you get the gist of what I'm saying. It's all in creating a product that kind of draws you in, and you can't, if you taste it and it's so delicious, you're going to obviously consider buying it. It's an amazing way to attract people. And then you have another way, which is really interesting, and that is that, again, you go into a store and they have a video going on which is explaining, say, for example, skiing, and they want you to buy ski equipment or pickleball equipment or tennis equipment. They have a video showing you people doing it, and it's looks so wonderful. It's very attractive, and it's a way to really draw people in. So their businesses are doing everything to optimize the fact that this particular product that they represent is really a wonderful thing. So what you're saying makes a lot of sense especially when you have it online, because people are online. What's the percentage, Matt? How many hours a day are people actually online?
Man, there's data coming out all the time on iPhone usage. You can even track your own iPhone usage. It's increasing every day. A large majority of developed countries are already online. But what I wanted to say to what you were talking about was that social media, Google, online in general is just a different medium, right? It's just a different medium. Like, think about Google AdWords. Like, what is Google AdWords? It's kind of like bandit signs. If you've seen people put signs around town like buy this home fast, or shopping or discount or sell or whatever, or even like elections, like those bandit signs, that's basically what Google AdWords is. If you think about snail mail or direct mail marketing, which still is actually really effective, it's had a resurgence since a lot of people have shifted to online. Then that transformed to emails. Emails now has transformed to, Facebook Instant Messenger and text messaging. So the open rates of text messaging and Facebook Instant Messenger are extremely high. Facebook is a channel, right? It's like a different channel or a different medium. So is Instagram of how people communicate. So Facebook's kind of like a party, right? It's kind of like a party. LinkedIn is kind of like a business meetup group. Everything that is happening online, everything's kind of starting to become blended. We're probably going to start to see kind of the Google Glasses type thing get this resurgence. You got Oculus by Facebook. They bought Oculus, which is a gaming platform. It's a virtual reality. So augmented reality, virtual reality, you're going to really see a blend of some of these things in the future. And really, it becomes very seamless of how advertisers reach their target market. And whether it be like you said, or even like in a doctor's office where they have your captive attention and they're playing videos, or even talk shows to a degree have kind of some type of agenda that they might be pushing, and even politically, right? So you got just a lot of different mediums, and I look at them as kind of tools in the tool belt. I think that PR and getting on the news is very effective. Taking that news clipping or that authority that you're on, whatever news station, and then running that as an ad on Facebook so more people see it and more reach. I think that the internet, like we were kind of circling back from what we said at the beginning of all the countries clamping down on it, I think it's made a lot more people a lot freer. And there's been, I don't know if the Arab Spring might be the wrong the wrong analogy, or even what's going on in Venezuela, but the social media, like if before if you didn't have money, you couldn't reach the masses. Now everything's free. I mean, you don't have to pay a production company. You don't have to buy a big, computer because you got it on your phone. You don't have to go anywhere to host it because you can post it on YouTube for free or Facebook or whatever. Then you can share it with friends. So everything's free. The access to internet is becoming higher and higher. Even some of these bigger companies, because they're looking at people as consumers. I think Facebook's going to do some kind of drones over Africa to give everyone Wi-Fi, and I think that it's just kind of how the world's evolving and how you want to interpret it. But I think people are becoming a lot more free, and one person can make a difference, and one person can get their message out there, as before you would have to go through a radio station or a TV station. I mean, now look at some of those followers on, YouTube or Instagram. Look at the Kardashians, like how much influence they have. And so you just got to really look at people are people, and if you understand, social dynamics or sales or how people tend to interact, And that's where
That's
data
right.
science is starting to have its rise, because you can see everything analytically of how people in mass are responding, and then you
Mhm.
can make decisions based upon that. And that's a lot of what we do. Is we're really, from an SEO or AdWords or even Facebook, like, okay, we put some kind of offer out there, or some kind of information out there, and we see how people interact with it,
Yes.
and we can iterate based on that to have the desired effect, or take somebody from point A to point B. There's really a lot of great books out there, and that's what I try to do, is try to distill some of that science, uh, or at least the books that I've read and the knowledge I have, into my experience, and how we've seen it work for us, uh, and other case studies and
Well,
things that I've read. So.
you're just a glut of information, and I'm sure that your book is absolutely amazing, because I mean, we've been talking for a little bit over 30 minutes, and I've also learned so much already from you, and I'm hoping that my audience feels the same way, because it's very important that people understand how to maximize a business. I don't want to ask you questions which are negative. I mean, for example, you had a question that you presented to us, which is, why doesn't digital marketing work for some businesses? But I think that's for our next show. We should talk about things of that nature, because today I want all the positive things that people can learn from you, Matt. And it's been a pleasure having you on the Susan Brender Show. Maybe you can tell our audience how to get in touch with you, how to get your book, how to listen to you on your podcast. I think that would be very important for them. So go.
Yeah. So I guess the last thing I would leave you with is, the internet and social media is just a tool, and it's, how you want to use that, and really what we focus on is learning how to use that tool as effectively as possible. If you want to get into some of the more complicated and detailed strategies, we do a 30 to 45-minute podcast every week, and that's The Unknown Secrets to Internet Marketing. It's syndicated on Spotify or iTunes, or wherever you look for a podcast. We're out there. We're on a lot of the aggregated lists as well. We've been around for a while. If you're looking for just that foundational knowledge, the book really, I put that together in a way that kind of lays it out, as far as my view of the world, the methodology of building know, like, and trust, and becoming a trusted advisor to your clients or customers or prospects, and then how to use some of the different tools that are out there. If you want to reach out to me directly, you can go to ewebresults.com and set up a free consultation. Or if you want to follow me on social media, it's Matt Bertram Live. And, if you search for that across all platforms, and Bertram's like Bert Ram, is kind of how I explain it, like Bert and Ernie, and then like a ram, if you want to follow me on social media. But thank you so much, Susan, for having me on your show. It was a pleasure. Hopefully I gave some insight into some different areas that your audience was interested in.
If I'm interested in it, and I hate to say this, but if I'm interested in it, I'm sure that my audience is going to be interested, because it really was fascinating, and it really has a lot of information that people can take that will give them the opportunity, as we said before, to improve their visibility, to do better business, if you will. And so thanks, Matt, for being on the Susan Brender Show. It was totally a pleasure. And I want to repeat one more time that Matt is the co-host of Unknown Secrets of Internet Marketing, the most popular SEO podcast on iTunes for the last 10 years. And he's also the best-selling author of Build Your Brand Mania, How to Transform Yourself in an Authoritative Brand to Attract Your Ideal Customers. Thank you, Matt, again.
Thank you for listening to The Susan Brender Show. To be a guest, email sebrender@yahoo.com.